Hey everyone, it's Molly the Kush RN, your host of Conversations with Kush podcast. We are checking in day one of NECANN. I have an incredible lineup for you, so please make sure to stay tuned for all the content that's going to be rolling out. Sitting down with a very dear friend of mine, Miss Angelique Zarillo. She is a dynamo in this industry. She has her hands in everything. Most importantly, this beautiful publication, The North Bloom. Angelique, welcome.
Thank you, Molly, for having me. Appreciate you always.
Yes, thank you. Tell my audience a little bit about you and how you came into cannabis. Start there.
Well, originally, I'm, of course, a consumer, a youth consumer, but abandoned that for all the reasons, right? I was a D1 athlete, scholarship recipient, financial aid recipient. So, are we allowed to swear on your podcast?
Yes, we are.
100% scared shitless that I was going to lose access to my education. I was the first female in my family to go to school, so I was that was a big deal. Scared of losing money, all those things, right? So I stopped consuming for a long time, and then it wasn't until, beyond socially, recreationally, once in a blue moon, wasn't until I had a little health scare. I had a series of weird mammograms about 7 years ago. I kind of had a holy shit moment. I was like, oh my God. And it was 6 years ago, 6, not 7. And my husband was like, well, our adult rec marketplace just rolled out in Illinois. You want to give this a try? It might take the edge off. And I was like, okay, yeah, I might like to pop an edible before I'm going for a biopsy, right?
Right.
And it was that moment where I had that click, light bulb. Oh my God, I can use this plant intentionally. And it can de-escalate a moment of high chaos and stress in my world, right? So that was just a complete mental and mindset shift. And so that was kind of my aha moment, because at that point, Molly, I actually was going to do something. I was going to do a professional pivot. In my undergrad I had abandoned. I was pre-med.
Yep.
And of course I was one of those STEM girls that fell through the cracks. I got a C- in orgo, and I was like, oh crap, I can't be a doctor now.
Yeah.
There was no guidance. I went, of course, I was in school in the dinosaur age, right? So it was lack of advising, lack of care. Oh, you can take your science classes over. No, yes, you can. I had no idea, right? So washed out, but, you learn, you grow. You're a professional in other sectors. I'm a writer and researcher by trade. So I was starting to gather clinical shadowing hours. I was starting to get my things, getting those couple classes that I needed to tee up. And being the older woman that I was not scared to ask questions. So I was interviewing medical directors of med schools, through the Texas application system. And so I started asking questions because I had self-educated myself on alternative medicine, integrative care, things like clinical nutrition as part of med school. Do you guys teach the endocannabinoid system? Mm-hmm. No. We teach one class in nutrition. And so I'm very much a holistic person, right? I know that all things contribute to our health and wellness. So I was probably hundreds of hours into clinical shadowing. I had my apps half done, and I'm oh my God, this is a stupid path.
Yeah.
This is a stupid path.
Cannabis is sorely missing from our educational system at a foundational level. And, to be fair, it's new on the scene. True. It was, the endocannabinoid system is discovered in the 70s. Shout out to Dr. Mashulam, and rest in heaven. So, we're learning, we're building the ship as we go. Mm-hmm. We're learning so much about cannabis. We're learning so much about the endocannabinoid system and how those two things interact with each other and how cannabis can support our own endogenous system.
Yep.
So, it's a learning process, but yes, sadly and sorely missed in the educational system. And that trickles down then to consumerism, to medical patients, to how people are able to access the things that give them wellness. And thank goodness for Bloom.
So you see what I'm doing.
Because that fills a gap. Yeah, it fills a gap, right? Before we get there, though, you have an incredible acumen in cannabis, actually. You're a certified ganjier.
I am.
So, you come with all this great knowledge, and then also I've heard you several times just really expressing vulnerable moments with cannabis and how cannabis is able to help you and your family navigate through the world and how to cope and how to deal and making that a part of your healing journey. And I just really want to applaud you and thank you for those vulnerable moments.
Thank you.
Because the storytelling, as you know, is how we break down stigmas and how we change hearts and minds about cannabis. So
It's essential.
it is. It
Yeah.
is essential. So fast forward to Bloom. Tell me how we
Yeah.
got here.
So fast forward to Bloom. So yes, abandoned the medical school path as a non-traditional student because I was asking myself that hard question about impact, because that's, like, we walk this earth for how many minutes and what's our goal when we're here, right? So for me, it was about helping people. And I thought around through that Western medical model, it's like, well, with insurance structures, I can see 20 patients a day maybe, but I'm like, I got an invite from my partner, Lynn Walkler, who's a board certified nurse practitioner and a cannabis trained clinician who's local here to Minnesota.
Yes, my girl.
And, she and I probably were having similar questions, right, in parallel, but we didn't know each other. We were 2 states away. And in the interim of abandoning that medical path, I found out about the Ganjier program, and obviously cannabis had helped me on a very personal level through a medical scare. And I had that aha moment. And so things just kind of dovetailed naturally in terms of that, dominoes falling in the right order and like an opportunity arising. And, Lynn seeing me on a podcast series with a couple of my colleagues, Elizabeth Sage, who's based here in Minnesota, and my friend
Shout
Sarah
out to
Tupper.
Elizabeth and Sarah.
Sarah Tupper in Michigan, where, our 3 perspectives about 3 regulated markets, you think that the Midwest would all be the same, but it's very different state to state,
Yeah.
There's a lot of policy decisions that get made that affect how that lands in the marketplace and whether
Right.
businesses can thrive and survive.
Yeah, even
Or-
now Ohio and Michigan too,
Correct.
like all that's coming into play, and here we are landlocked.
Yep.
Like
Yep.
come on guys, catch
Yep.
up.
Yep. Yeah, there's a lot of nuances that we can
Yeah.
unpack. But basically, so boom, boom, boom. Lynn sees me on the podcast series. She asks Elizabeth, hey, would Angelique be interested in doing this thing? Because from Lynn's perspective, because she had started a hemp-based brand here as a clinician, it was like all I'm doing every day is educating people, patients, consumers. There's so many questions. Like, we forget that this plant has been under prohibition for the better part of the last century. That's a lot of time for people to forget how to use something, right? Grandparents not sharing, your parents, the next generation not knowing anything about it, and a lot of misconception, especially with a lot of programming around the 60s, our war on drugs, our Nixon generation. I mean, my mother taught dare education in my grammar school.
Yeah. Well, and now we see the young kids, right? They're not accessing alcohol. They want an alternative. They don't want to wake up feeling like shit the next day,
You and I have kids, similar
Yes.
age group.
Yes,
and,
we do.
I mean, we're a house that stocks weed. It doesn't stock alcohol.
Yeah.
And we have all adults, 27, 24, and 21-year-old boys, and we consume together, which I think is a true novelty. And I talk about that openly because that's part of my normalization story, right?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's important.
Yeah.
It's important to start normalizing the conversations, and that's really important for patients to be able to feel comfortable going into their doctor and being like, hey, yeah, I've been using cannabis for the last 5 months, and Jesus, it's the only thing that's ever helped my knee pain or whatever it is,
Or my sleep.
Yeah.
Like critical functional things for
Exactly.
human, like my appetite is off. Well, have you been stressed out? How's your sleep? Have you been taking care of yourself?
Right.
None of those questions are answered appropriately, right?
Right.
But sometimes a little consumption of the plant helps allow your system to regulate, and then
Yes.
all those needs get met.
Yeah, we talked a little bit about that with one of my first guests about how cannabis is a tool for really self-regulation.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
let's talk about Bloom a little bit deeper here. So there are 6, you're a year and a half in, right?
Year and a half in, so we're
Yep.
working on issue 8 now.
Okay,
Yeah.
issue 8. So
Yeah.
issue 7,
Yeah.
really compelling.
So that would be, what camera's
Yeah.
live here? I don't know which
This
way.
one, you're here, I'm here,
Okay.
yes.
So this is Bloom. This is issue 7. We just dropped last week, so I'm not sure when this is going to go live, but May 6th is when this came out. So
Okay.
we're starting to circulate all over the state of Minnesota, and we just expanded circulation. So we're in over 300 locations. I expanded this print run, so we're up to 15,000 copies. So a lot of people don't understand print. We had like a very guerrilla marketing approach to rolling this business out as a media company. We're like, well, we're gonna show up in like a 1990s style, print first. And that seems backwards because a lot of people are like, why aren't you doing digital yet? Well, I'm like, first, we're trying to reach new consumers. New consumers aren't Googling us and searching us because they
Right.
don't know about us. But you know what? I'm going to catch a new mom walking out of Lunds and Byerly's with her groceries and her baby stroller in front of her, and we're going to be on a rack right at the door, and she's going to pick it up, and she might not know that it's about cannabis from the cover art, but when she starts reading it and hearing about the storytelling and then learning about the people behind the businesses and the brands, maybe that'll open up a new realm for someone, a possibility.
One the model that I love is putting it into doctors' offices.
Yep.
The coffee table magazine that people are going to pick up, and again, not. There's no big weed leaf on the cover of Bloom. You open it up and you're like, oh, what's this about? Oh my gosh, it's cannabis. Yes, of course you're going to access that information in a medical office.
Yep.
And
I always like to touch on this because I think for those of us who are here facing the industry, there's always a high level of reverence to the culture and the history and the legacy of this plant. And that's of high regard to me, right? And if I want to like slap a label on myself, which I'm not terribly fond of, I'm probably a stoner by definition. But I know that when we're walking into certain spaces, like your dentist or your chiropractor's office, like I can't show up in my Grateful Dead gear and be taken seriously about this conversation.
Hey, look though, the word stoner doesn't have to have a negative connotation.
No, but it does for non-consumers.
Yes,
still,
it does.
Right?
Yeah,
So,
sadly.
So I'm still trying to flip that script a little bit in that regard and blend some worlds that are pretty disparate still in terms of like how people are framing health and wellness decisions and where their dollars are going attached to that.
We talked a little bit about vulnerability earlier, and I want to say that the stories that come out of this magazine are so compelling. I mean, you hear stories of grief and loss and cycles and how cannabis is just like not necessarily the Band-Aid, but like the warm hug that people need that helps them get through and really just like brings them to a sense of like, okay, I'm gonna be okay.
For me, I think what I've realized in terms of the cognitive shift or maybe some of the psychological and emotional shift, it's like there may still be this very painful thing present in your world, but what cannabis consumption of the plant does for me specifically, and I think for a lot of others too, it just allows it to move over here in your peripheral vision so it's not that roadblock to take that next step that you need to take.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So it's just a little bit of a shift.
Yeah.
And just that little bit of a shift changes the world for some people.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah. So, thank you for mentioning that because authentic storytelling and writing is very important to me. Like, this needs to be truthful and trustworthy, and I think that's the word, that's the T word, that's the feedback that I've gotten because I've spent no money on marketing. Because I don't have it yet. I need dollars. I came out in a marketplace a couple months before Adult Rec rolled out. So like I'm trailing. I'm ahead of everybody's marketing budgets that are trailing me, right? Because they still got to build their businesses and they got to develop that revenue. So I'm trying to be patient and be here for them to be that safe container, then to take their stories and their brands and their marketing and bring it to a brand new audience and then bring those folks and their dollars back here to support a very brand new and growing industry.
What I like though is that I feel like you've packaged it in a way where like, people can come in at a little smaller price point if they can't, to be able to contribute in some way or to be a part of it in some way that's not, overtaxing them. Yeah. So I appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely. No, you need to be mindful of where people are at and where the economy is at in 2026. It's a hot mess.
It is. It's a mess from the floor to the ceiling. So.
And this business specifically in this sector, these margins are very narrow for people. Until we have a shift at the federal level, that lack of being able to take standard business deductions for anybody that's flower touching is enormous.
Yeah.
It's asinine, honestly.
Yeah.
These are some bold, brave, crazy people building here.
Okay. So we've talked a lot. I talked earlier with a brand about consistency.
Yeah.
And what I love about Bloom is it's very consistent. You've always got like your publication, your quarterly publication will come out with a theme, right? And so you'll have this theme of like cycles or regrowth or renewal or and you've got some really wonderful and beautiful people that are contributing on a regular basis, and so we're seeing people's voices develop through that. And I really love that. Like Elizabeth Sage, she'll give her take on her kids or like her husband or things like that. Things that just like really touch people on a personal level.
Yeah, it's
like
authentic.
Who can relate to it?
Yeah, it's real life. It's real life.
Yeah. So man, I'm so proud of the work that you and Lynn have done with this, and I just
thank you.
Man, I want to shout it from the rooftops because
it's important because I think that. In anything, there's biological examples of this, there's cultural, there's professional. Like the more diverse cohort that you build, the stronger a thing is, from genetics and like breeding dogs to like work teams, right? Bringing in different perspectives and knowledge sets makes a more robust conversation. So like that's a high target for me too, like bringing a very like credentialed, knowledgeable subject matter expertise on my contributor list every single time. And for me, credentialed also means like dog years in, like, and that's like legacy knowledge as well, right? So like I don't need to see 17 letters after your name all the time. Like if you've been doing this for 50 years and you do know better than someone that graduated from U of M, you know, like there's learned experience that means something.
We need to honor the legacy market too, because you know I'm new on the scene here. I've only been in cannabis since 2021, so I'm a baby in this space, you know, and like I'm finding my own lane. But like the legacy market, the people that have come before me, that have risked their lives, their livelihood, put their families in jeopardy, you know, that shit matters, and it needs to be honored.
Lives have been lost.
Yes.
Money has been lost. There are people still incarcerated for this plant, which
100%.
is very backwards.
Yes.
So until we get all that straightened out, then we have a level playing field. But like right now we don't, so we need to honor that. And honestly, none of this industry would be here if there weren't people that carried the genetics forward through decades and decades and decades of prohibition. Right?
Exactly.
We wouldn't have anything to grow.
What's the next publication going to be about?
So this current issue, like you mentioned, you know, we always curate around content themes. So this one was about cycles and systems. And so I try to curate a couple topics that we can look at through medical lenses, societal lenses, ecological lenses, business lenses, right? And obviously this issue is heavy on women's health, which I was really pumped about. Hey. Did you look at the recipe?
Yes.
It's like, what should I be eating for week 1, 2, 3, or 4 of my cycle? Oh, not all the same foods?
Right.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, because my body's very different week to week.
Super intentional work. Yes.
Correct.
Thank you.
Next issue is going to be fun. Okay. I'm being mindful of the fact that this is when your beautiful state opens up and people get to get outdoors. Yay. So I did a little play on words. Of awe and wonder. So this next issue is going to be awe and wander. Okay. So let's get out and have some fun, and let's think about incorporating the plant into that.
Yeah. And like, what a way to just like heal your endocannabinoid system on a pure internal basis too. You know, being outside, being in community, tapping in with nature. Like the more you can do to just like bolster your own endocannabinoid system, the less cannabis you're going to need, or different forms of cannabis, you know? So like developing that relationship with the plant, making it really intentional for you, making it personable for you. And like, as we know about cannabis, it affects everyone in a different way. One strain is going to affect 3 different people in 3 different ways. You know, they're all going to have a different experience.
Correct.
And that experience is going to depend on what they ate that day, if they had an argument with their spouse, if they've got a good rest, you know, like, so cannabis is so dynamic. And I just think that you guys are really doing an amazing job capturing all the facets of it, as you said, from the medical perspective, from the industry perspective, from the science perspective, and it's just a really all-encompassing publication that I want to just kiss you.
Thank you. Well, we can kiss after the camera goes off. And Molly, I'm glad you brought something up, because this is something that I want to continue to say, because I think that, you know, we have been received so positively, so that warms my heart, because you never know. You bring something new, and I'm, like I said, I'm mindful of like the cultural aspect of this industry, right? So like when I bring something, and I definitely got questions asked like, well, are you going to put some sexy nugs on the cover? And I was like, no, because I have some peers in the space that do a fantastic job of that already. So I don't need to replicate what they're doing, but I do realize that we're leaving out an enormous group of consumers out of this conversation, because maybe we're not appealing to them yet. So I'm trying to gently introduce this to them by drawing like very specific analogies to like other natural world things, right? So like this cover art, the tomato, you know, like the tomato is a completely misunderstood plant, historically speaking, right? So like then that kind of reframes the conversation for some people. But for me, I want this conversation to evolve into the cannabis and space, the regulated plant space. We're going to see more things come into the zone, you know, psilocybin, ibogaine down in Texas for vets. Wait. You know, so like let's kind of open up this conversation, and I think probably how you spend your dollars as a middle-aged woman, and how I spend my household dollars as a middle-aged woman, we drive this economy in this country. Yes, we do. So like we should be part of that conversation around where this goes too, you know? So I want to see like natural foods in here. I want to see, you know, other CPG. I would love to see Bloom in a Whole Foods, because I think that's where we belong.
I agree 100%. Whole Foods, well, you already
Exactly.
said there,
Yep,
the
we're all
co-ops and
Yep,
everything.
we're in food co-ops. Yep.
Back to the tomato,
Yeah.
people always are like, well, if you can grow a tomato plant, you can grow a cannabis plant.
Exactly.
So I love that additional parallel there.
And there's some code there too, like hydroponic shops and things
Exactly.
like that. Like historically, like that's where you would go to get like, whisper knowledge about how to grow cannabis at home before regulation. So
I love it.
Yeah. There's entendre on entendre here with intention by me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So brilliant.
Thank
You're
you.
so brilliant.
Thank you.
What do you need? What does Bloom need? How can
Oh
the
my God,
community
can I
support
just be
you?
like crass and direct?
Yes,
I need
please
cash.
do. Yes.
We're a free publication. We're educating the general public. There's no public dollars attached to education for our space. It's up to brands and businesses to do this. So like I have a community first mindset. Like this needs to kind of be a cooperative endeavor. I would love to stay here as long as I can, but I need money to back. Print is not a cheap endeavor.
Right.
So I need advertisers, I need sponsors, and I'd love support because
Yeah.
I'm here to support everybody else. And
Right.
honestly, at the end of the day, why most of us are here is to support patients and consumers.
Right. Well, and I really want brands and companies to think about this as when you tap into to things like Bloom Magazine, you're really going to just expand your reach. You're going to reach more people that are going to have eyes on your brand now. Oh, you're supporting this and you're showing up here, you're showing up in these spaces. And so, just be open-minded to those things that, you don't have to be just like singularly focused. You can expand out a little bit and, maybe I can tap into other spots. So,
Yep. Yeah, so some of the feedback that I've gotten, unsolicited feedback was like, we trust you guys, you're doing it really well and smartly. And the cutest comment I saw in an email thread with the advertiser was like, it's very sophisticated what you guys are doing.
It
and I was
is.
like, thank you.
It is
like, that's really a high
sophisticated.
compliment.
I think when we first started talking, or when Bloom first came out and we had to talk about it, you were like, I want this to be the magazine that sits on your table. That's also beautiful.
Yeah.
And it's illustrative, and I'm not really coming up with a word for it, but it's it's a beautiful piece. It's aesthetically pleasing as well. Like when you open it up, you see well thought out themes and artwork that goes along with that. And so it's just, you're amazing.
Thank
You're
you.
amazing. Yeah.
I got to tell you one last story,
Yes.
one little nugget before we wrap. So this cover art, this is my photography.
Yeah.
Because that was my, So I wanted to work for National Geographic when I was younger.
Okay.
Yeah.
You still can.
No, I can't. No, this media is dying. That's the problem. Like we're in a hard era. There's
it's
been
tough.
mergers and buyouts and shutter. I mean, I was a newsroom clerk for my first job from age 15 to 19 in West Michigan, and the building's gone. That was gobbled up by a digital,
Yeah.
And so this cover art, I intentionally went into my local grocery store in the south side of Chicago, so family owned, third generation run. They've been in business for 70 years. So they're the kind of the local small business on Main Street, in my area of Chicago that's like, they've got the petting zoo for the parade day. They shut down on like Southside Parade. It's the biggest community parade in the country.
Oh man.
Every year. And I went into the vegetable section and I was like, oh my God, you know what? Like that hot, horrible fluorescent light. It's like a selfie circle. It was like, this is great, sexy lighting for the tomatoes in here. And I got to tell you, there's like 7 old ladies that were like, honey, what are you doing? And I was doing like macro photography and the whole shoot. But this is my point. Like, this is who we need to highlight and feature in the magazine as well. Main Street, the small businesses, the small mom and pops that are trying to build something here too, because that's really important, because those dollars that are built in a zip code and stay in a zip code are what drive stability across our nation. And when those main streets die and when those shops shutter and we have outlots and outlots of suburban yuck that, are corporately owned from many
We're living
states
in
away.
Amazon smart cities.
Yeah, well, and the Amazon overlap there for me is, I print in the Midwest by choice. It might not be the cheapest thing. I could print overseas and save a shit ton of money, but I want to keep it local. I want to keep those dollars as local as I can. But paper, like large web press paper, primarily comes from Canada. So like I'm affected by tariffs and trade problems right now. And most of our paper mills in this country, especially in the Midwest, like your northern area, the state, your timber industry, which has died too, yeah, Amazon, the rise of cardboard boxes, all of those plants have shifted from paper development to cardboard box development. Thank you, Jeff Bezos.
Yeah. Well, thank you for continuing to be intentional about
Thank
it
you.
and really
Yeah.
support, because you're right.
Small business matters.
It does, 100%. So last but not least, if someone wants to submit an article or buy advertising space or just like tap into this beautiful publication, where can they find you?
All right, let me do the rundown. So our website is www.thenorthbloom.com, so thenorthbloom.com. You can find us on socials at The North Bloom, on Instagram, Bloom Multimedia, on Instagram with an underscore between the two words. And you can find me on LinkedIn and Instagram too. I'm Zarillo's. So embarrassing to say this here in Minnesota. Like Da Bears. It's my last name with an S on the end.
I love it. Oh, you know what? I want to do one plug, and I want to compliment you again because,
thank you.
oh my God, you just deserve all the accolades. But attended a 2-day Flourish Investment Forum yesterday hosted by you and Calandra Reving, and man, was that incredible. Talk about being in the right place at the right time with the right people.
Thank
you guys really put it together. Super intentional work. So if you are someone out there that's like struggling with capital, this is what that was all about. And and again, everything that you do, the way you show up in this community, Angelique, is, I'm amazed by you.
Thank you, Molly.
I admire you so much.
I appreciate
that. And I think you really walk with the heart of having the industry flourish, and to have individuals flourish within the industry. And you're amazing. And
Thank you.
So glad that we are not just allies in the industry, but friends.
There is no point in any of us existing here in a silo. Like, we all ride together, and we all rise together. So we got to.
And it's at dawn. So get in, bitches.
Get in. Buckle up.
Well, thank you again for your time.
Thank you. Appreciate you.
We are tapping in from NECANN Day 1, sitting down with a host of people today. So stay tuned for content. Peace.